Alright, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. Today we are building Dave's 500 stroker short block. So I'm going to try to make this a comprehensive, easy to follow video. If you haven't seen the prep work that I've done, check out the other videos in this series. Dave is at Rust Bucket Restos. If you haven't seen him yet, go check him out. This is supposed to go in his, I believe it's a 68 Charger. So he's done a lot of work to that. The car probably should have been thrown away and started over with, but he's the man, so I'm going to do my job because he did his. So let's check out step one, our engine. Here is the 400 block, and I had this machined by Mr. Rick Seaman. It is a 78 model. I did freeze plugs, I did all the prep on it, cam bearings, I washed it out thoroughly. I got a comprehensive block cleaning video if you didn't see that. But here that is. It's ready to be built. I've got all my stuff over here set out. I have not filed my rings yet, excuse me, but I'll probably do that at some point in this video. I swapped all my stuff out for a nice balance, or to put these parts together as balanced as they can be without, it's supposed to be a balanced kit. Here's our cam. Anyway, as I'm rambling. Nice roller cam. It's an old Edelbrock number, part number 2206. And here's the specs on it if you'd like to see them. RPM range is 1500 to 6500. It is a hydraulic roller. It is literally perfect for this setup because we're going with the Edelbrock Performer RPM heads. I got a video checking those out. Mr. Rick Seaman at his shop. And I got the valves lapped in, put back together, checked the springs. They're ready to go on. So step one, I'm gonna get our cam stuck in, lubed up, checked out, and then we can do crank. One thing I checked for, does it have oil holes? Yes. I brushed them out with a fine nylon brush, both directions, sprayed them out. Then I wiped the entire cam down and it's good to go. I got all the factory, I guess, rust protectant or whatever you call it all. I would typically use like an assembly lube. This is the old Lucas stuff that I got. I added a little bit of oil to it because I want to know and feel how well does this cam spin. It's never been in this engine. I had the stock cam. When I put these cam bearings in, it spun really nicely. So in theory, if this cam's straight and wonderful, it'll go right in and spin as nicely as well. So all I need to do, get a little on each one. It's still plenty thick. Get her lubed in. One more there. Number 3, getting a little slippery. That's a be where you don't want to destroy that front cam bearing like we've recently seen in a 521 that was taken apart. There we go. Oh yeah. That's nice. I'm gonna go ahead and stick my front cam sprocket on just to keep the cam from kind of floating in and out. It should be fine because we're only rolling that way. Or before we roll it over and do the crank, I want to drop that new distributor gear in, be sure it locks in well with the cam because I don't want to have a problem later and I already have the engine fully assembled and all that. Milodon 21525. Bronze gear, Molly shaft, use the roller cams, used with stock or Milodon oil pumps. So we're gonna have a high volume pump, but it's still the same depth. Put a little lube on there. There we are. And I've got another video showing you the cheap Chinese copy of these gears. This one has very little slack in it. That other one would rock and roll. So that's nice. That's what Edelbrock calls for their cam. So in reality, I could leave that in to hold my cam, but when I roll it over, it would fall out of the engine. Womp womp. Can't do that. This is just a top sprocket. And I dropped in our new Howard lifter because I wanted to see the pattern of the lifter on the lobe. And I think it's going to be exactly, perfectly, beautifully centered. Just like we really, really wanted it to. That's great. If I can't give it a spin. Something else to notice, I can get them up. See how deep the oil band is here? A lot of people are worried about some lifters. If I can get, so this one's coming up to the top of the lobe like that. It still covers really, really well. You know, that's another, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or so, at least a 1/16 at full lift. So that's nice because it's not bleeding off oil at the top of those lifter bores. A lot of guys just go ahead, they go right to bushing lifters. And with these retrofit deals, you're not really supposed to have to do that. Same thing on the bottom side. There's a mile. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. There's a mile before that lifter hangs out the bottom. So really nice lifters, the Howard's ones. We got these from 440 Source also. These definitely say Morrell Street Series on them, so keep that in mind. Howard's, big block Chrysler, 0424, 91767. Went ahead and got us rolled over. I wiped off every bearing. Actually pulled them back, the shells out of the block. Wiped the block, wiped the bearing. Everything's totally dry and clean. I got my Mr. Race Oil Engine Assembly Gel. I'm going to put a little bit on this rear main seal. And the lip is facing that way, so when the oil hits it, it can't get out. I always put mine even with the block. Some people out there say, stick one up or the other up or whatever. It's not for me. On Mopars, this is what I do. And I am just a Mopar Joe, so here's what it is. I'll let you know if it leaks, I promise. Bottom's in, crank is clean, we're ready to drop her in. So traditionally, y'all know I'm a Lucas man. I normally take my oil stabilizer, not the pure synthetic kind, but the other kind that's real thick like molasses, and mix it 50-50 for assembly lube. But Dave is an AMSOIL man. So I can put a link below if you need to get some AMSOIL stuff. This is what we're running in the engine. It's SA30, and that goes along with that bearing clearance I talked about last time. And I got me a little squirt bottle here, so I'm probably just gonna go, this assembly lube is actually real nice and thick, red, gummy, good stuff that'll stay there forever. I need to cut it some because I wanna feel this crank spin, and I don't wanna take the crank back out again. It all should be wonderfully perfect. So I'm gonna probably do about 50-50 with the AMSOIL break-in oil and the AMSOIL assembly lube in this little bottle. Get her drizzled up here good. I usually wear gloves, but I'm currently out of them. So y'all have to excuse my lack of safety equipment here. And we're going to do the faces of the bearing. A little on that side, good. And like that. Slow and steady. There we are. Touch her off and give her a little light spin. Everybody's happy. I went ahead and put some of our red stuff on the inner cheeks of that crank, whatever you want to call And I'll get our thrust in place. Fully lubed. More ARP lube on my threads and under my heads. I even took my acid brush and just lightly went around inside those holes with some ARP lube as well. And we'll gently drop her down. I think we're pretty close. I don't get to pull this out very often, but it's good for stuff like this. I give it about all I can. There we are. Will we still roll? Sure thing. Hammer to set the thrust. Good enough. Got a rear main in, and main cap's torqued down. See my little blue strips, and I got a fine little film of RTV that I kind of put on each side of that as I'm shoving it down. It's just a little process, not bad. And then at the end, I fill in the whole back side of that with RTV and smooth it straight and clean. I haven't had one leak like that before. And probably when I put my oil pan gasket on, I may fill in these holes here and here, just because I like a little insurance. But that's done. I had to find another rear main seal cap, and I know they sell these billet new, but this was the one that was with this block. And if I can help it, I like to keep the one that's with the block, just because it's heat cycled together its whole life. But a little tiny hairline crack here, all the way down. I didn't see it until I got it out of my sonic cleaner, but there it is. So I can toss it. Had another extra laying around. It's not a big deal. And that one's in really good shape. So pushing on to gapping some rings. And we know Dave wants to have a little nitrous. Maybe I can get the glare off this. There we go. So we're running gas. 150 to 350 HP. We're doing bore time 6.5 thousandths. So that gives us top ring, here we go, 28 thousandths, second ring, 30 thousandths. So I got the good total seals, file to fit. And you can see those, the shine of those top ones. So you know they are moly versus the old dull cast there. Let me get those ground to finally go rod on the piston, rings on the piston. And these are special pistons because the pin bore goes through those bottom oil rings, and they give you a special oil rail support. As many of y'all know, there's a little tiny tit right there. Hopefully you can spot that. There we go. And the tit will end up going in the pin bore itself. If I can stand that up. There we go. So basically like that. See our tit's down. It'll catch in here and then won't spin later on. But I had a viewer last week. He brought up an excellent point because he said he has the same kit. To look right there on both sides, whenever they cut that pin out, the metal's raised. I can catch it with this little ugly file here. And what that'll do is actually raise that support rail up just slightly and give you a little bit too much compression on that bottom ring pack. So all I'm gonna do is knock them off, both sides. It is a good practice to check that. Hopefully you can catch a good angle of it with this camera. But it's standing up. It's enough. I mean, I could catch a fingernail on that right now. And eventually it would wear down and go away, but also the pieces may fall in your engine. It's just a little bit more metal you don't really need. So let me knock those off and then we'll start assembling. I've got my rings marked. See my little red marks? And I just use the sheet top compression, bottom oil ring, basically. Are 2 smaller oil rings offset. Spiral lock time. And Rick Seaman has informed me I better not stretch that out past about a 1/2 inch. So that's even more than he wants. I like to give it just a little. These boards are kind of funny because of that, the way they go through the oil ring, so that's about all I'm going to give it. Lube is the Torco. That's, there you go, if you'd like to see it. And I just did that because it may catch on this little piece of board here. Let me get a little more. And I went ahead and got a couple done ahead of time so I could get back in the groove of it. Once it starts going, it goes, baby. There it is. Just walk the dog. Bow wow. This piece here's got a little dig to it. There we go. There we go. Snap, boom, bang. See what that was. About 2 minutes. Now, remember this is number 3, and it'll be setting just like that. We need the cheek of a rod with the chamfer. We'll go just like that. So that'll go towards the fillet of the crank. There's my eyebrow. So all I'm going to do is just lay this dude over just like that. So I know I'm not going backwards here. Good to go. Go Torco in here. Aren't you glad you don't have to watch this 8 times? A little on my pen. There we go. Nah. Work it, work it. If I can hold the pen, there we go. Torco's sticky stuff, but it'll be there. I went ahead and poured just a little bit of the break-in oil all the way around that oil ring. And the reason is, when this dude goes on, it kind of wants to get a little scratchy and whatever else. I'm not going to put it in ring expanders and expand it great big. I don't really like that. You can absolutely do this any way you wish. This is how I roll, literally. So let's just go slow, go easy. Just like that. Here's my little pretty assembly. I like this ring compressor. I know some people hate on it. You need to get whatever, but this one fits everything and it works good for me. My ARP lube, inside, rod bearings in. I can go ahead and stick this dude in just like that. My crank is rotated out of the way. That'll sit there. As soon as I knock that in, I take this back over to my table and I loosen it. So it'll be ready for my next piston. Great big. When I get about that close, I just go ahead and rotate our crank so it will hug the rod bearing just like this. Just like that. She floats. I'll even put a little on the side of the cap there in case it touches the crank. And here we are. ARP lube on my threads and under the heads. That one made it. That one made it. Now we're together. We should be able to float now. Even though it's not torqued, it should still float. That's good to go. Here's what our little short block looks like. Nicely assembled. See, I got my dial indicator on here because I never showed you at any point checking the crankshaft in play. And I did that before putting any pistons or rods on, but after I already had them on, it's kind of hard to show you again because you get a lot less side-to-side movement, but I can attempt to show you with it on here. It may not be as accurate, but it'll have that same thrust in the car when it's there. So, and here we are with our big screwdriver. Give it a little pry. Be sure our zero is accurate. And I go on the opposite side and give it just a little pry. See, we jumped about 2.5 there. Go ahead and give you some more. Call it about 3 right here. I think I got 4 when the rods and such was not connected, so. Yep, that's right in spec. I think they want, usually looking for 2 to 7. And we can check our rod side clearance now while I got you here. Spoiler, I've already checked it, but I'll show you how it works. That's the one, and that is 18 thousandths. My feeler's a little stained, but that's a little looser than a lot of people like, but since it's a performance engine, it doesn't actually matter. I don't know if I can get to that one without spinning her over, but yeah, 9 to 17 is what the book says. We're good to go. We can do more stuff. And I can't degree the cam today because I don't have the correct Woodruff key. This is a Harbor Freight that I've got taped in there so I can put my socket on to be able to turn the engine over. So that'll be in tomorrow from Summit. Yeah, I thought about go ahead and measure for push rods, get those coming because Dave's wanting to pick this engine up pretty soon and I want to get it done, get it out of my way and get it in his way. So that'll be good. Our actual deck clearance when I measured it was 20 thousandths. Rick and I did not deck this block. It does have kind of a strange cut to it, you know, instead of a little different than a factory block I've seen, but as far as I know, it was never decked outside of something done at the factory. So we checked the deck. The decks were good. Right now we're 20 thousandths in the hole, and I had a figure on my dynamic compression. We are plenty good. We're going to be like 10.8, 10.9 static, but the dynamic with this cam is around I think 7.8 or something like that. So it's bleeding off some good pressure, which is what he needed. It's a street cam anyway, but it's, you know, should be fairly aggressive. Good to go. So I just wanted to kind of show you that for a minute. It's not bad at all. I'm actually glad these are flat tops like that. If he ever wants to upgrade compression later, it'll be easy to just throw on a closed chambered head and get him up to, you know, 12, 12 and a half. So that'll be an easy move. And, you know, probably big horsepower boost. But for a street engine, I think that's all right. more people.